Out of all the action and sci-fi blockbusters that have turned into big, overblown franchises, Predator is definitely one of them. The first movie was an absolute banger, led by career-defining performances from Arnie and my boy Carl Weathers.
Whoa. There's still plenty of meat on that bone. Now you take this home, throw it in a pot, add some broth, a potato. Baby, you got a stew going.
And the Predator's action, suspense, and slow reveal made for a truly epic summer blockbuster that instantly became a classic. Many people don't enjoy Predator 2. I think it's a really fun sequel that interjects just enough bonkers insanity, along with the fact that Danny Glover is just charismatic as always, and makes that a really fun film, even if it gets a little messy towards the end. I feel the same way about Predators. That movie is a lot of fun. It's got a stacked cast too, especially Adrian Brody playing the lead. He's always great. It had plenty of suspense and some scares, strong bloody action scenes, though it turns into even more of a mess than Predator 2 at the end, and they try to introduce a bunch of different twists and turns that don't really work all that well and try to make the story a little more convoluted than it needed to be. But overall, it was a pretty good movie. The Predator, on the other hand, is a mess through and through, with way too much of a convoluted plot and too much of a focus on Shane Black's awkward humor that really doesn't fit a Predator film.
That's a sports hunter.
Well, we took a vote. Predator's cooler, right? Fuck yeah.
Not to mention that there are completely stupid characters rounding out the cast, and it honestly has a depiction of autism that borders on offensive. So when your franchise turns into an overstuffed, overblown parody of itself, what do you do next? Well, that's easy. You simplify it and you bring everything back to the basics. And for the most part, that works. Bringing us to Dan Trachtenberg's Prey. Hi everyone, I'm Anthony from Awesome Anthony Productions, and today I'm going to talk about Prey, the latest film in the Predator franchise. It's actually a prequel, taking place in the 1700s and following a Comanche tribe as they get hunted by, who else? The Predator. Now before we get started, please go ahead and leave a like, leave a comment, go ahead and subscribe and ring the bell to be notified whenever I post again. I try to post at least one review a week. I did it last week, got a little sick, but hey, I'm back on the ball again, so let's get into it. As I just mentioned, Prey is a prequel that follows a Comanche tribe in the 1700s as they hunt and forage to survive. Nehru, played by indigenous New Mexico native, can't say that word, played by indigenous New Mexican Amber Midthunder, is a female gatherer in the tribe, though she proves right away that she's way more of a warrior than a forager, and she's a lot more talented with a tomahawk than a basket. She wants to join her brother and the rest of the hunters, but of course, she's a woman in the 1700s, so they don't allow it. But she does spend her days training and exploring with her really good girl best friend, her dog. I don't know the name of the dog in the movie. The dog actor's name is Coco, and she does a great job, and she's adorable. So yeah, Nehru spends her days doing typical foraging and gathering and stuff, and training and learning how to hunt, practicing with her tomahawk and everything. But when one of their own is attacked by a mountain lion, Nehru is determined to find out what actually attacked him, leading her to strike out on her own and end up face to face with this seemingly invincible creature. The idea to set this film in the 1700s really should be applauded, because that added so much creativity, suspense, and just really beautiful scenes. Like the original film, the Predator is revealed slowly here, through some very intense scenes where he's shrouded in camouflage and parts of animals. I'll leave it at that. Which actually brings me to the best part of this film, the tone. Instead of a silly, tongue-in-cheek comedy masquerading as an action thriller like the last film,
this fucking guy is crazier than the rest of us!
Prey keeps a very heavy tone throughout, taking the story seriously and giving us plenty of very intense moments with the Predator. It range between jaw-droppingly cool and completely horrifying, especially with the creative use of his weapons and camouflage. It's also a refreshingly simple film. There's no crazy plot twists, no secret bad guy, no evil corporation that's running everything behind the scenes. It's just Nehru, her brother, and the hunters in their tribe up against the Predator, which makes for a truly epic and cinematic experience. Instead of having wave after wave of military man just empty round after round into the Predator, we actually see warriors that have to use their smarts and use these primitive weapons to fight a creature that's way more advanced than they are. And the very creative ways that they play with him, his mythos, and his weapons and everything really make this worth a watch. The simplified story also really allows the filmmakers to focus on the things that work well. The suspense, the action, the bloody violence, and give them room to breathe. There's actually a surprisingly amount of quiet moments where a scene happens, maybe two characters interact, someone dies, the Predator attacks, whatever, and the next scene is a quiet rumination of what just happened to actually allow those things to sink in. The movie has a quick enough pace, but it doesn't feel like it's flying by, skipping over the important stuff. But then, the characters start to talk. The dialogue isn't bad or anything, but it does leave a bit to be desired.
You can't
I'm trying to protect you.
Protect me from what?
I didn't watch this in the subtitled Comanche version, and I've heard that it's actually a more immersive experience, so I'll probably have to check that out. I watched the English version, and when you listen to the characters and see them interact, you realize that they're just pretty one note. Neighbor was an alright character, but there isn't that much to her characterization besides the fact that she just wants to be a hunter. And the same goes for the rest of the tribe. They're all pretty one note. Neighbor is a female gatherer that wants to be a hunter. Her brother is the star hunter of the tribe who wants to keep his sister safe, and that's really about it. The film focuses more on the attacking predator and the action rather than characterization, and it's a little disappointing at certain parts of the film because even though these things really work and Neighbor and her brother have a strong enough connection based on what we see in the beginning of the film, there just isn't that much to get you invested in the characters, especially when you consider the heroic yet vulnerable three-dimensional badasses from the first film.
Squad.
You're bleeding, man. I ain't got time to bleed.
And every other character has virtually no development either. Nobody else in the tribe really gets a personality or even a name, and when some nameless white Frenchmen show up later to cause more problems, they don't really have much either. They're just stereotypically gross. It lacks a lot of nuance, which I think something like this could have benefited from. That being said, I still really like this movie a lot. It's definitely not the worst thing to come out of the Predator franchise, and Neighbor and her brother are very likable even if they're not written quite as strongly as they could be. That's not to say that they're bad characters though. Like I said before, we understand their sibling dynamic and their relationship enough based on the time we get with them in the beginning of the film, so they're not that bad, even though the ending does leave a little bit to be desired in terms of the Predator and what we know about that species and how smart and talented with weaponry they are. That being said though, some characterization, writing, and dialogue issues here and there don't take away from the things that really work well in this film, which is the fact that the Predator is actually a scary and serious threat again. He wasn't put into another goofy-ass comedy. So if you're a fan of this franchise like me and have seen how disappointing it can get, I'd definitely check out Prey. You'll probably enjoy it, and at the very least, get a fun 2 hours with a badass and brutal villain, a strong enough lead, visceral and kinda shocking violence, and a dark, intense tone that never really lets up. And there you have it, that's my review of Prey. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please leave a like and give me a comment below. While you're down there, you can subscribe and hit the bell to be notified whenever I post again. It really helps me out, it feeds the algorithm so that more people can see my shit. I really appreciate all the help. You can also check out these cards here if you want to go over to my channel or check out my review of Nope. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Excuse me.